Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner studio. With me today is Shae Parker. Shae is the independent candidate for North River Supervisor in the November 5th election. Congratulations, I guess, Shae. You've entered back into the political realm, so.
Well, thank you. I thought I was done with this, but sometimes situations change what your plans may be. And after talking with a lot of citizens and sort of being, I guess, I don't want to say enamored, but maybe shocked is the better word on what was going on, I decided that I perhaps had a little bit left in the tank as well as experience, and I would give it one more chance and see if I can't help save our county, so to speak.
Well, that's good. Vote for Warren County. I've seen that somewhere before.
VoteForWarrenCounty.com. That's our website. Essentially, the way that I'm looking at our community right now, the future of Warren County is very important. What we've seen happen in the past, we sort of have to put in the past and let the judicial process take place. I think there's still more investigation that needs to be done to find out how deep the corruption could possibly go. But in the meantime, as citizens, we need to look to the future of Warren County. We need to do our homework this time around when we're voting. We need to do it every time when we go to vote. But we need to familiarize ourselves with the candidates. We need to go to all the candidates' meet and greets and make sure that we're picking the right constitutional officers, to make sure that we're picking the right supervisors. But right now, we need to look at the future of Warren County, and we need to vote for Warren County when we go to the ballot box.
I agree with that. And people complain a lot, especially now with our social media access. Complain, but they're not. Complaining is one thing, but being involved is really how you fix these complaints.
We can place blame on our elected officials or those that work in government, but essentially as a populace, we're the ones who put them there. So if you have a 20% turnout, you could say you get what you deserve, but we expect more of our leaders, and we need to expect more of ourselves. We all have to participate. I know that there's at least one seat that's on the November ballot, I believe in the South River District, that's uncontested for the school board. So, we can, whereas in the supervisor's race, they have 3 candidates down there. But we just need to all be involved, and that's whether we're as a candidate, whether we just go to attend meetings, whether we stay informed with the press, or whether we show up on election day. And the easiest way to be involved is to show up on election day.
It is. It's true. It's kind of like parenting. You wonder how the kids turn out. Well, if the parents aren't involved in their families and their children's lives, it's no different. I mean, it's kind of like along the same path. If we're not involved, you kind of get what happens.
Well, this election, it's not about parties. It's not about politics. It's not about individuals. It's about Warren County. And whereas I was talking, the voter needs to be educated, not just about the candidates, but about everything that's going on. And as we enter into 2020, there is a lot that's going on with Warren County. This election is more important than just the EDA scandal. Next year, we will start comprehensive plan review. It's done every 10 years in conjunction with the supervisor's election. Each supervisor who gets elected will get a planning commission appointment. So you could not only have a change in the makeup of your Board of Supervisors, but a change in the makeup of the Planning Commission. So with those two, and you're now dealing with going through the entire comprehensive plan, you're going through the CIPs, you're going through the county's master building plan, there's a lot that's going to shape the future of Warren County. And as a community, we need to decide what we want that to look like. We've done studies in the past. We can pull those off the shelves, but the biggest way to get what the citizens want is for them to be involved and to show up on election day. 2020 will also bring a census.
Exactly. I was just going to ask you about that.
And 2021 means redistricting. So not only will we look at the precincts within Warren County, but Warren County has an opportunity to lobby the General Assembly and ask for Warren County to be made whole again, so that we have one delegate, if that's what we feel we want to go back to. Or maybe we ask, well, 3 is too many, none of them give us attention. Let's just go with 2. Maybe we like 3. Maybe we want to try 4 this time. But
more
everyone
merrier,
needs to be in on that conversation.
Right.
And that's another thing that's going to shape the next 10 years, because we won't do redistricting again until, another decade.
Right.
So, we may also want to question and talk to the state about whether or not we like being in the 6th district. Stretching from Front Royal all the way to Roanoke, that's quite a stretch. Do we feel that we need to be back in Northern Virginia and be in with Clark and Frederick and that realm? So there's a lot for our leaders to ingest and to move on with. And that's on top of everything that we already know that's continuing to, I guess, develop every day with the Economic Development Authority.
Right. Well, the Board of Supervisors makes up of 5 people, and we know this election will have at least 2 new supervisors.
At least 2, yes.
We know 2 are going to change because, 2 new, and possibly a third.
Right.
Mr. Sayre is running, and then he has an opponent, so his seat. So there's 3 seats available, and so it is possible that you could have 3, which would make a majority of the board.
It would. And I've spoken with Mr. Fox and Mr. Carter, who, come election day, that's who I'll be working with if the voters feel they want me to represent them. And me and Mr. Carter haven't always seen eye to eye, but I'm working towards the betterment of Warren County. I have Warren County's best interest in mind. So, if we need to clash and butt heads, I believe
you'll do a good job of that.
Well, I don't want to necessarily disparage or anything, but
Sure.
There was a point when I was on the town council where some people were not happy that I took the sandwiches out of the council's mouths.
Right.
And I believe that was one of Mr. Carter's first statements to me was, "Don't take the sandwich out of my mouth." Well, if it's not serving the citizens of Warren County, I'm going to take the sandwich out of your mouth, or at least I'm going to do what I
Right.
can if I feel that it's a waste of money. I'm sure you don't expect from your employees, well, we're going to be putting in a long day. Let me buy you lunch.
Right.
Before you cut your, let me buy you breakfast before you come in. You're going to work, get your own breakfast. You're going to a meeting. Grab a sandwich on the way. It shouldn't be on the taxpayer's dime to pay that.
Well, I know you're very fiscal conservative.
I don't like spending my money, and I don't like spending other people's money. I think government should exist of the essential services. We should get a bang for our buck. We should go out. We should look for the lowest bid. And that's whether we're purchasing vehicles or whether we're building a school or whatever it may be. You always look for the lowest price, and you want to get the most bang for your buck. You don't want to say, okay, this is what it costs, but I've got to deal with this, and this in addition to it. I want to get a value for my dollar,
Right.
and I've gone through and had experience with a lot of budgets.
Yes, I know you have
6
some
years on the town
Right.
council. Spent 3 years on the 4-H board of directors and going through budgets there. They had some tough times, and we were able to get through it, and they're finally on the mend. But you've got to look at a budget with a fine-tooth comb, and I believe in zero-based budgeting. I think that when come January 2nd of next year, the entire staff for the county needs to know that, hey, if you've been putting your budget together, you better start again, because we're going to account for every dollar that you're requesting. We want to know where it's going, what you need it for, and we need to build up the budget that way.
Yeah.
What you spent last year, you can use that as a basis, but you better account for every dollar and build it up from zero up.
Yeah, I was watching budget procedures. We videoed all the budget meetings that we were aware of, and you see that it's almost like they just add on to what they budgeted before, traditional budget. But I keep stressing to people, zero-based budget. Go back to the beginning and reevaluate, revisit all these points to see that, do I need it? Can I wait a year? Do I need it now? What it is.
Part of that, we've got at least 10 years of failed economic development. You can say that we've got essentially 30 years of failed economic development. The EDA and the county have not replaced the number of jobs that were lost when Avtex was at its peak.
Exactly.
So, you're talking 30 years of essentially failed economic development. We're talking about adding more homes with the Crooked Run West property. That'll be settled before I take office. But to me, the county needs to be looking at commercial and industrial development in the right areas to supplement our tax base. Housing, for every tax dollar that's spent, that house is costing you 1.5 times that. So you're losing money. A household doesn't really pay their fair share of taxes. That's why you need commercial and industry to supplement that, to help pay for the schools and all of that. We've got the tools here. We've got the right tools to attract the right industry and commercial. We just haven't worked it from the right angles. And I think that there's a level of cronyism, nepotism, patriotism, everything else that's going on within government that you're fearful of that truly does exist. And we need to make sure that that is fully written. We need to open the books, all of Warren County's books, ask outside investigators to come in, and look at everything to be sure that we don't have this problem moving forward. And I think it's a concern that's on everybody's mind.
Well, one of the things you mentioned, putting the CDA thing kind of behind us, that's just a small thing compared to a lot of, like you brought up, the things that are going to be happening in the future. I'd like not to see us get bogged down around the EDA.
It's a small thing, but it has a big impact.
There's
a reason that Warren County's taxes are higher than Shenandoah County's. There's a reason that Warren County's taxes are higher than Frederick County's. We don't have the commercial and industrial base that they have. They're larger counties, yes, they have a larger population, but they have a larger business population as well, so they can take from that tax realm. We've lost that opportunity with the EDA over the years.
Right.
I think that there's problems in building inspections. When you look at the communities around us, we have urban development areas. We have zoned properties that we can put in apartments, that we can put in townhouses, that we can put in single family homes. However, it's happening in the counties around us, but it's not happening in Warren County. And then our Economic Development Authority had to look at building their own workforce housing. So housing for government workers, your county workers. It doesn't make sense, the cycles that we're going through, when we can look that things are working from the private sector outside of Warren County. So once we can rid some of the layers of corruption, or all of the layers of corruption that are there, and go back, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
We can look at our neighboring communities and say, this is how they're doing things, this is what we should be doing. This is working for them, it can work for us.
Exactly, because I've looked, we review all the Virginia business news, and you see a lot of businesses and industries going into Frederick County, and you look at the type of business it was, and I'm thinking, that's perfectly suited for Warren County. It's because they depended on a lot with the connection to the metropolitan area. We're closer. And they all say in real estate, location, location, location. I mean, we have an inland port. We got UPS terminal.
We have the interstate. We have the rails. We have open land bays. We still need to have smart planned growth and make sure that we can retain what we all love, which is sort of that small hometown feel.
Sure.
We're a large community comparatively. I mean, Front Royal's the size of Falls Church, but it doesn't feel like it.
Right.
If you look at the population of Warren County, roughly 40,000 people, that's a large community in a relatively small county, but we don't have a lot of development here. And I don't think we want to. Historically, it's always been a tourism community. We have great bones that we can be a great tourism community. We can also be a great industrial hub that utilizes that inland port, that utilize the interstate. One of the biggest things that we need to tackle regarding the EDA, other than figuring out how do you move forward from this, we need to unencumber the 117 acres of Avtex land and allow other industry and business to come into the Avtex property besides IT Federal.
Exactly.
When you take and you put up all of that land as the collateral for the $10 million loan, there's no one in the right mind would come in and say, I'm going to buy a piece of property that's got a mortgage on it that I can't get out from under because I'm going to build this great, jobs creation center. It's not going to happen. So to me, that's, other than figuring out what's owed to the town, for example. Where did all these contracts go wrong? Trying to right that ship in conjunction. You've got to get that 117 acres unencumbered so that not only can the town have business and industrial development, but the county will see a benefit from that as well. And that land was prime ready for redevelopment, and somewhere along the line somebody came up with an idea, well, let's encumber it and make sure that it can't be developed, because that's essentially what they did. They said, we don't want to see this land developed, and that was the EDA who did that.
Right.
And that was in the EDA's audits. So the county supervisors can't come back and say, well, we didn't know that was happening.
Right.
It was very obvious that it was happening, and we need to find out these egregious things that were done, fix those so that we can move forward and have the prosperity that Front Royal and Warren County need.
You hit a highlight. You kind of slipped it in there about the building program. I've approached some of the supervisors in the past and explaining to them that we're not business friendly. And I use that term. I know it's a generic term, but when they say, "Oh, yes, we are. The EDA helps businesses and et cetera," but as you're a small business owner and I'm a small business owner, and we've dealt with our building department, it is not business friendly. It seems to me, and I'll ask you your opinion of it, is that to me, I think that if we go to our government and we want to do something as an entrepreneur, okay, it may not apply. Is there a law against that? Well, their job would be to assist us, point out that, okay, maybe according to code that's not available, but you can do this, or you can do this, or let's modify our arrangements. What say you on that?
There's aspects in which I think our government workers are friendly and they are personable, but it's the so-called red tape that you have to deal with. The rules that are enacted maybe on a local level more so than on a state level to make it a more restrictive process. I'm not sure if there's liability reasons, what exactly some of the more cumbersome rules that are required in Warren County exist. I've always felt that a government employee, whether it be in a town hall, in a county government building, or whether I go to the United States Congress, these people work for us as citizens. I'm the customer, and I'm a shareholder in the company.
Exactly.
I should get the highest level of customer service when I walk in. As a business owner, I should get the same level of service because I want to spend my money in your community. So now not only am I a shareholder, and I'm either a citizen or a property owner or something in your community, I'm trying to put money back into your community. We should be going out of our way to make sure that if you want to make money in our community and share that money with our local government and basically taxes, that you should have all means available to you, and we should go out of our way to make it as easy as possible. Not at the risk or at the jeopardy of someone else, but in conjunction.
Exactly.
What's fair for one is fair for all.
Exactly. The first word out of it seems to me, and this is kind of a stereotypical type answer, but the first thing you do when you go ask a question is, no, you can't do that. Instead of saying, well, let's take a look at it and see what we can do to help. I don't know. It's like you say, being in a customer service business, as we both are, if my employee treated a customer like that, they wouldn't be my employee any longer.
We should make sure that all of the employees of local government, Warren County, have a yearly update on customer service classes and ethics classes.
Right.
And that should just be a requirement. New hires get it, and then you have an annual review so that
Right.
you're basically going over your procedures and policies manual.
Right.
We're going out of our way for the customer, and we're going to make sure that we're doing everything above board.
Right. Well, and when I say this about government employees, every office I go to, really, the individuals treat you very nice, and this is not this is more of an overall management style, so to speak. But the individuals are great, and they do the best they can. I mean, and they're very friendly. I mean,
And I think
even in the departments that I don't think I'm getting treated right, they're still friendly to me.
And I think that's what the citizens are asking for, especially at this election, is they want a different management style. They expect different from their leaders than what they've got in the past.
Right.
They expect someone to be open. They expect someone to be accountable to them. They want someone who's going to listen to them. They want someone who's going to be ethical. You know, they have higher expectations, I think, than what we've had in the past. We have seen what has transpired, and we don't want to see it again.
Well, they're coming out. I think people are becoming more involved, or there's a small nucleus that are getting involved,
Yes.
which is still larger than before.
But honestly, I think that we all need, almost a jar of Tums sitting on the nightstand,
True.
to sort of keep the disgust that we have. And you never know when something new and sensational is going to break. I call it binge watching your hometown.
Right.
Because, I think we all have been with what's been in the press. You can't go to the grocery store line or get on social media without it being a part of our everyday lives.
I'm out in the community and people say, "Who's next? Who's next? Who's next?" So.
And it's sad, but I think that it's during sad and trying times that people always show their best.
Right.
And right now, that's not only what the citizens need to do, it's what our leaders need to do, and it's what the community as a whole needs to do. We need to show the best side of Warren County. We need to take all of those assets that we have, and we need to put them up on a pedestal and say, this is what we're going to build around. We're the entranceway to the Skyline Drive. We've got tons of golf courses. We've got the river running through us. We have great businesses, in our community, and we can build on that. And I think it's just a matter of our leadership stepping up and being the kind of leaders that we need.
Well, in the countywide, our Board of Supervisors are literally the managing the managers,
Yes.
so to speak, and should set the tone of how the county operates.
Yes.
I would think, and then they're involved in that. And since they hire the management staff that takes care of it, I always like to use the phrase, what they said, like Reagan said, inspect what you expect, or trust but verify. I think that was his skate. Mine is inspect what you expect, but sometimes we've fallen short on some of those management.
Reagan also asked who's minding the store.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I have that same question.
Yeah.
Because when I look around Warren County, I have to question who is minding the store. And I think we need strong leadership. When the community comes to you with questions, you need to be able to give them the answers. If you don't have them at that time, come back with them.
Exactly.
We've made it more of a hindrance for the public to speak to the Board of Supervisors.
Right.
There's nothing preventing the Board of Supervisors from holding a meeting with the only thing on the agenda is public comment, and having a conversation with the citizens to let them know, this is what we can share with you, this is what's going on, what was your question, staff, do you have an answer to this question? And having open dialogue. That's truly what this community needs right now, because there is a lot of distrust, there's a lot of rumor, there's a lot of conjecture, and we all need to be open and honest with one another and civil.
Well, there was also, earlier in the year, there was some controversy came up to the Board of Supervisors about this public comments, and they jumped all over the place, and the public came forth and said, whoa, you're right, we want to ask questions. But when you go to the meeting, the first thing you hear is, limit your time to 3 minutes, this is not a question and answer, so we're not going to respond. And
Right.
Really, that's why people come to talk to the board. They want answers, they don't just want to ask questions. And so maybe that's something we need to look into and have more of those going forward. That might
Well,
be
supervisors have 2 meetings a month, some of those can be long with work sessions
Sure.
attached to them, but when you have 2 meetings in a month, I think you could find time to have an additional meeting or 2 that's
Right.
specifically to talk with the citizenry.
You're doing meet and greets with people. Why isn't something like that just continued throughout and I've talked to a lot of the candidates over the years, and I said, why aren't you holding meet and greets after you get elected?
Yes.
Why aren't you putting out a column in the newspaper every month, like, this is what's going on, this is what we're going to do, and if you have questions, contact me. But that brings us to this question. That is, right now it seems like we have a lot of closed door meetings, and not necessarily because of legal issues, but the public looks at it and says, why is everything behind closed doors? And I mean, we have this, I call it television mentality. We want all our problems solved in 60 minutes, you know?
Well, having served 6 years with the town of Front Royal, I'm familiar with closed meetings.
Right.
There are reasons to go behind closed doors. If you were an employee of mine and I sat on a board of directors and we were going to discuss your job performance, that's not something that necessarily, we want to have in an open conversation. You're due some privacy.
Sure.
If there were a prospective business that were coming to the community and they didn't want, you had a competitor at, let's say they wanted to come to Front Royal and Winchester, and they're playing one off the other, what kind of incentives are you going to give us? We don't want to have a public meeting in which we're letting Winchester know what kind of incentives we're offering. Now, if you're going into a closed meeting to discuss legal strategy because you're suing or being sued, well, you would want to keep that in a closed session. But once we just started talking about funding that legal matter, there's no longer a need to be in a closed session because we're not talking strategy, now we're talking funding, and that part of that conversation should move back out to an open meeting. And I think there are some aspects, and there's some long-winded conversations where maybe it is a small piece that is discussed, but it can take a while to discuss. And when the public is shut out, I can understand their distrust for the government of why are you having all these closed-door meetings, but there is, in actuality, some reasons to do things behind closed doors, but you have to limit what you're doing in closed doors. Only those things that are absolutely necessary should be back there. And as Warren County looks for new legal counsel, hopefully they will look at someone who's very strong in not only their knowledge of how closed meetings work, and government works, but sort of being a stickler to the rules to make sure that you're not crossing those boundaries and crossing those lines.
And I think it also goes back to the communication that we need to give the public, the why are we doing it, and explaining it, and keeping people abreast of what's going on. And sometimes that's
legally you have to read a certain statement that says 2.2-3711A4 of the Code of Virginia, and we're going in to discuss X, Y, and Z. Yes, that's what's required by law, but there's nothing to prevent you from saying, okay, I know that was a bit odd, but this is what we're going in to discuss, and be a little more enlightening to the public. And I think that needs to happen across the board with the Board of Supervisors. They need to be more open. They need to be more accessible. They need to be accountable. And, you have to have that line of communication open with the citizens and realize, just as we were talking customer service skills, that is, you are an employee of the citizens. They've entrusted you with making decisions on their behalf. And you have to take that as a serious responsibility, and there is a lot of expectation that is put on an elected official, and you have to live up to that.
Right. I think their job could be a little easier if you just get other people to help you do it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't all fall back on you as the elected. You're just a representative, and if you want to find out what to do, you got to speak to the people that elected you.
And it's interesting you mentioned that you're elected by a district. And I'm running for the North River district. It's an important district. It's where basically our industrial base is. It's where the water and sewer is. It's where some great farms are. Some great golf courses. I mean, we've got a lot in that corridor. But if I'm elected as the North River Supervisor, I'm still a Warren County Supervisor, and I represent all the citizens of Warren County.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes our supervisors miss that note that, I only represent these people. No, you represent everybody. You're one of 5 votes that's going to have an effect on everyone. If you decide that you don't want to vote for something, that doesn't mean that your district is excluded from that. No. I mean, so I think we have to be accountable to all the citizens.
Well, also North River has a section of the town in it as well.
Yes. And the town citizens are county citizens, and they receive different services. They're sort of a state-recognized sanitation district, if
Right,
you will.
right.
I mean, they have sidewalks, they have police, but we're still county citizens. I mean, I live in the town, but I am a county citizen, and I can run for Board of Supervisors. And we get the same level of services. I'm not getting any more being a town citizen from my county dollar than what a county citizen is. We both pay for schools, we both pay for county services, such as the courts, the sheriff's department,
Parks
animal
and
control,
recs,
parks and recs, you can go down the
Sheriff,
list.
yeah.
But whereas a town citizen, they're paying for all of that with their tax to the county, and then they're paying taxes to the town, in which they're paying for the police service, they're paying for roads, they're paying for sidewalks, so they have water and sewer and electric. Those are
Convenience
separate
tax.
entities. Yeah, we don't have to take our trash to the convenience sites that are
Right.
located around the county. We can, because we pay those taxes as
Right.
well, but we can put our trash out on the curbside.
Yeah, I think that sometimes people have a tendency to look at the town and the county as not one and the same, so to speak.
Right, and there's been that discussion, especially between the town and the county and the EDA. Are the town and the county competitors? Are they competing with one another? For economic development, in a sense, they sort of are. But I think that we have opportunities where they can work together and see success on both of their parts without having any animosity and without being competitors. And getting the 117 acres of the former Avtech site unencumbered is a great tool for that.
Right.
If
It's in the town, but it's also in the county.
it is. If we feel that, we need a large housing development put in, look at your urban economic or your urban development areas that already exist. The Front Royal Limited Partnership land. The county and the town agreed to do a friendly boundary adjustment to bring that land into the town so that they could get those level of services. If you feel that, we need development, we need it now, look at the places that are already zoned for it, that are
Right.
already meeting your comp plan.
Right.
So I think that there's a lot that could be said negatively about Warren County and the way that we've done things. But I think that we need to focus on the positives of Warren County, and we need to make our future a reality and make Warren County as good as we all believe it can be.
It's a great place. Great
It is.
place. Been here a long time. I don't want to move.
I've been here a long time myself. I grew up here. I'm a product of Warren County Public Schools. I've raised my family here. I got married here. I've started a business here. My first career was, sort of pseudo public service and broadcasting, working at the local radio station, and so.
Where else did you work back then?
I don't know where. I had a lot of little jobs here and there.
Yeah. We won't
Mike,
talk about.
There may have been a point in time where I was employed here as well. Yes, and
You along with 200 other people,
I
right?
was going to say, you've had a lot of people that have been employed here.
And a lot of and they've gone on to open businesses in
They have.
Front Royal.
They had.
so-
You could almost say that you're an incubator.
That's right. I'm an incubator. There you go. I appreciate. Or what? That's a polite way of saying I'm old.
Well, you've had an effect on a lot of people's lives, good and bad.
Good
we'll
and
say.
bad.
Good and
Well,
bad.
Shae, I really appreciate you coming out of retirement, so to speak, and dipping your toe back into politics.
Well,
It's a good time.
I don't think that right now is a time that, it's not a job that anybody necessarily wants. It's not a time for anyone, I think, to necessarily say, it's all the perfect time to get involved in local government. But it's a job that needs to be done. It needs a lot of thought put into it. I think we need experience in there that have dealt with large budgets and have seen the good and bad in government. I'm willing to do the job. But again, it's not necessarily, I think, that's something that anybody necessarily wants to do or is like, oh boy, can't wait for
That's
this.
right. Exactly.
But, we need to remember to vote for Warren County on November 5th, and remember to vote for Shae Parker for North River District Supervisor.
There you go. That's if you live in North River.
That's if you live in North
But
River.
you can still support you. Do that.
And if you want to learn more about me, go to voteforwarrencounty.com.
One more time.
Voteforwarrencounty.com.
Again, thanks a lot, Shae. Really appreciate it.
All right.